Divine Mercy Conference. The conference hosts a number of inspirational speakers, among them Breed McKenna, a sister of St. Clair. She's originally from the border of Louth and Armagh, and she's based now in Florida, but she travels the world with her healing ministry.
What a great joy to be at this wonderful, grace-filled event. The Divine Mercy is one of my, I would have to say, favourite next to the Rosary devotions.
Another speaker here today is Philip Ryan, a Dublin man who's been guiding and inspiring pilgrims in Medjugorje for a long number of years now. Philip, how many years have you been over there?
26.
26, my goodness. And the work that you do?
Looking after all of the Irish pilgrims that have travelled out these past 26 years, from the time they arrive to the time they depart, and everything in between.
And what does it mean to you to be a part of this conference here today?
This was a huge honour and a huge shock to me. I joked when I spoke that I thought I was being asked to hold Sister Breed's microphone rather than speak myself, but to be honest, I was asked not because of Medjugorje so much as my experience these past 26 years. And I was trying to calculate. I'd say there's somewhere in the region of 300,000-400,000 Irish have been in that time. I haven't guided all of them, but it's the presence that they bring to this conference also that brought me to this conference.
What about your own faith? Where does that come from?
My mother, my parents, my mother and father, definitely. My parents, we didn't always have it easy. Like many people in Ireland, my father suffered from a disease known as alcoholism, and all the turmoil and the disharmony that can bring to a family. But it was because of that. It was 1986, someone anonymously put £500 in our letterbox in Tala, which happens in Tala all the time. They put in the money in our letterbox. It just said to Pat and Joy Medjugorje. And my mum came, sick and all as she was with colitis, always in hospital, very limited. And she would travel all the way to this foreign country, Yugoslavia as it was then. And she came home with a peace that we had never seen before. It was in her face, it radiated from her. And whilst she was still sick, she began to recover. And she was the one that would bring peace to us and to my father. My father then became a pilgrim in Medjugorje. And then a short time later, I became a guide for a month. And that's 26 years later.
Are you optimistic about young people and spirituality?
I am. Young people in Ireland are searching. Some find the search easier, some find it goes the wrong way. But my experience in Medjugorje, since the Celtic Tiger fell, has been there, done that, bought the t-shirt. And where am I now? Negative equity, no job, a sense of hopelessness about the future, and without being cliched, to Mary, to Jesus our Lord, there is no negative equity to Jesus. There is no heart not worth saving, not worth paying for as he did. And the message of this conference and the message to all young people is, one, there is a God. He believes you, he loves you. It's finding the courage and that space to find him.
The commercial area of the Divine Mercy Conference. It's a place where people can come to buy books, memorabilia, souvenirs, and there are also charities here who are giving out information about the work that they do. I wanted to have a chat with some people to find out what their impressions are of this conference.
I've been coming to Divine Mercy for the last 23 years, and I've just received great blessings every time I come for myself and my family.
I was brought here by a local sister. She told me about it in our church, and I've always been a Catholic and I've always believed, and my faith has always been quite strong, I'd like to think. So I was always interested in it, so I came here today for it. First impressions of it, it's amazing. There's some lovely, wonderful people here, and I find my faith has definitely gotten stronger today. Like, just, it's so warm, and I was actually just there in adoration, and it was lovely. It was so peaceful.
Turnout was good. The things have been going out very strongly over the last couple of weeks, so we were expecting a big crowd, which we've got, and we're very happy to see new faces. I think, you know, it's a moment when people are moving back to the Lord, which is no harm, and we need it. So I think that will be a very good 2 days.
Some personal stories of faith there. Now, this morning, when Father Joe MacDonald was speaking to the congregation, you could hear a pin drop. Father Joe is originally from Belfast. He's now parish priest in St Matthew's in Ballyfermot. And Father Joe, you told a very personal story, the story of your abuse as a child by
a priest, yes, by a Catholic priest, that's correct.
And you went on to become a priest yourself?
Yes, Mary, but not, it was a long and winding path after that. That happened a very long time ago when I was a small boy of 7. And eventually at 16 or 17 I found myself struggling with the idea of vocation, and eventually joining the Irish Christian Brothers and spending 25 very happy years as a teaching brother. And people, particularly the whole therapeutic community, would suggest that that was my attempt to respond to God's call, but not as a priest, that I almost sidestepped it. But then thankfully, in later years, my dad died of stomach cancer in the 1990s, and at that stage I felt I would abandon all faith, I would give up everything. But I found that that wasn't God's plan, and the notion of vocation to priesthood, which didn't suit me at all, would not go away. I found myself on my 40th birthday going to Maynooth, and I was ordained 8 years ago, almost 9. So.
And what about your views of the man who abused you as a small child?
Well, you know, I think anybody who's been through it, you bury it, you deny it, it comes up at different times in your life. Obviously for me, one of the places it presented itself was as an adolescent, in terms of our identity and who we are. So, and then later on as well, you come to taking religious vows. As another place obviously where it comes up. So loads of themes of anger, resentment, bitterness and so on. And then obviously it becomes so topical because it's in the news so much in later years. And I find myself then revisiting it, almost not by choice, but because it's literally in your face so much. And one of the things that I discovered was that, you know, people talk a lot about closure. This is the key word, and everybody wants closure and so on. But I learned pretty quickly that compensation, psychotherapy, all these things are important. An apology, fulsome apology, they're all important. But for me, and I don't want to be lecturing other people about this, for me, I realised that without forgiveness, there was going to be no closure.
So you have forgiven your abuser?
And I have to immediately say, yes, Mary, but not a box ticked off. Have it in good, healthy place, but sometimes have to revisit it. And you have to revisit it because what happens sometimes is that another piece of painful legacy presents itself, and say, oh, need to go back again and revisit forgiveness. So forgiveness isn't a box you tick off, and it ebbs and flows. But yes, I am comfortable about saying that I have forgiven them.
This Divine Mercy Conference certainly has its stories, and the congregations here at the RDS will continue their faith journeys when they go back to their parishes all around the country. On next Friday's Nationwide, we travel to Youghal in County Cork to see some of the historic attractions